compared to my team, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
So for me,
with you on your position, you took the choice. We took the two worst teams from last year.
Yeah.
I know you've been very
kind of about this
especially your Cleveland team. So I know when you had the opportunity, I would like to hear like how you would fix up this team in this offseason as a GM of the Cleveland Browns. And I feel like a fire is coming though.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily upset. I feel like Cleveland has never maintained any kind of chemistry from the top to the bottom since I've seen them come back to the league. So we go back to when they drafted Tim Crouch in the late 90s. They never gave him a chance to be successful. You never could remember them drafting a wide receiver to really complement Tim Crouch's abilities. He might have been a reach when they actually drafted him at the position they drafted him at.
Didn't have Braylon Edwards at one point?
They did. They actually had a wild card team with Braylon Edwards and Derek Anderson.
Wide receivers last maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, they didn't want to pay him, so he went to the Jets and they lost out on that. So every time a receiver's had a decent year, like Josh Gordon, they have not rewarded that receiver and like invested in that receiver. And then with Trent Richardson, they gave up on him fairly quickly. Peyton Hillis got hurt because
he had 900 yards his first season, and he led the rookies in touchdowns.
They said, I believe they traded him. They traded him. He struggled him after 4 games. He was struggling. Let's get rid of him. But that's a third pick in the draft. And I think what people don't understand with football is so much about chemistry and like developing into a system. It takes time. So if you trade somebody, like you're putting that clock back so far back, especially for these position players and these position talents. So for me with the Cleveland Browns, first off, they fired their GM a couple weeks ago, and Sashi Brown, who I believe was one of the youngest GMs in the league, African-American brother, that seemed to not have a good communication line between him and Hugh Jackson. They never seemed to be on the same page about what they were doing and who was doing what. Sashi Brown seemed to have his own vision. Hugh Jackson seemed to have his own vision for the players, and he never seemed to be at the same page. And now there's a new GM over there. John Dorsey, former GM of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Giants who are very high on having to replace Jerry Reese.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, though, I think the Browns are in an amazing position. They actually come into 2018 with the most cap room in the NFL with $53 million of free money to spend.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have some good players that they can develop. I even have a top 5 young players that I would look to as a GM to develop. But we have the recent failures of the Browns to look at as why they haven't been successful. I have a top 5 of those. Starting with number 5. Quarterback Brady Quinn. He was a first-round pick in 2007. Didn't last long. We don't even really know if he did anything well. Like, when we think of Brady Quinn, we do not think of anything in NFL. Did he have a good year? Did he throw touchdowns? Like,
that's a fact.
We don't think of it because they never gave him a chance.
But in college, he was the man.
Stop. 4, I have quarterback Brandon Weeden, who by Jerry Jones has said that he throws the prettiest football he has ever seen. Wow. He was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2012 first round. Brandon Weeden never, because he eventually got stuck behind Derek Anderson. Never got a chance to actually play.
And Brandon Weeden was one of the oldest quarterbacks coming out
out
of college. I remember when I said I thought he was going to be a star
for the job.
For the Cleveland.
Correct.
I really thought he was.
Didn't work out. Number 3, we just spoke about Mr. Trent Richardson. 3rd pick of the 2012 draft.
That's a fact.
Didn't last long. They did not give him an opportunity to build. He was out of there. Like, you can't keep wasting the equity of these first-round picks and not developing these players. This is why you struggle. New England, all of their second-round picks become starters with them. And that's why they've been that great for 15 years. You draft and you develop. You don't trade these players within 3 years. That means you failed at drafting them. So now, number 2, we had another defensive back, top 10 pick, Justin Gilbert, 2014 cornerback that was a monster in college. Didn't look. This is 2014 they drafted him. I don't even know if he's still in the league right now. And number 1, 2014 first-round pick, quarterback Johnny Manziel. That started a handful of games for the Browns, showed promise, but because of his alcoholic tendencies and party going, for some reason wasn't worth the Browns committing to and trying to develop him into their starting quarterback. Even though they gave the equity of a first-round pick to get him. So for me, my first way I would start off with trying to develop the young players that the Cleveland Browns do have.
Mm-hmm.
So the young players that they do have that I think are worth developing, I start off with number 5, the tight end that they just drafted in the first round, David Njoku. I think he has a ton of talent. He's very athletic. He has a chance to be a very good player for a long time as a tight end on this team. I think they have one here. Number 4, I have a strong safety, also the nickel cornerback, Jabril Peppers. He's actually had a phenomenal rookie year. A lot of people thought that he would not have a real position because of the way he played a physical brand, almost like a linebacker in the box in college.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have some ball skills and can also play the safety, which is a position now. But he's mostly a nickel corner.
Mm-hmm.
Then number 3, wide receiver Corey Coleman. 15th pick of the 2016 draft. Has amazing hands.
Thank you.
But a small wide receiver, very injury prone. He's like Odell Beckham, he's smaller. But has great hands. I think he's a player that they can look at to develop. Number 2, quarterback DeShone Kizer. Coming out of the draft, a lot of people liked him. I didn't understand why, because he's struggling this year as a rookie. I don't understand why you want to give him up, because this team has not been successful. So, of course, your quarterback should struggle. There's nothing in place that would help him be successful. There's no success there. So for Kizer, it's going to take time if he's ever to be successful. You have to give him the time to actually develop into a star. And number 1, of course, they number 1 pick from last year. 2017 first pick of the draft. Defensive end Myles Garrett. He has a chance to be one of the elite defensive ends in the league for a long time, like Javon Conley, Michael Strahan, a lot of these big names that you hear, J.J. Watt. He has a chance to be one of those players that can anchor a defense. Mm-hmm. If they develop him and continue, you have at least a player that you can know is a perennial all-star, almost like Mario Williams. When the Texans drafted him, he started them from being a playoff team once he came in. Once he solidified a defensive line, the Texans was no longer laughingstock. Mm-hmm. Even though their offense never caught up. That defense has been elite since Mario Williams got drafted. And for me, I think the biggest thing for Cleveland this year is to approach the offseason and bring in players to push the envelope further. The needs that I saw for the Browns is at running back, wide receiver, middle linebacker, and free safety. So with those 4 positions, I feel like there's a way for them to go out there and address it. And there's a way for them to become good very soon.
You said middle linebacker?
Yes.
Free safety.
Free safety, running back, and wide receiver. Well, the running back they have actually is a very talented running back. He's young, he's talented. I believe
Duke Johnson.
I have another name for that guy.
I like Duke Johnson out of Cleveland.
They have a couple of good running backs, honestly.
But they're not running backs.
They're more like Sproles. They're more like
Duke Johnson was remind me of like Gurley just outside the ball. Mm-hmm. Like he's not behind like running. Not every single time. Yeah, you're right.
Like the running backs they have remind me of Shane Vereen's.
Yes.
Deion Lewis.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily.
They're not touching the ball over 20 times.
They're not
behind the
backs.
Yeah, they're 4 down backs. Yeah.
I don't see them as such at all.
Yeah.
Isaiah Crowell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like him.
Very young. He's actually ran very well. He's a pretty good running back, honestly.
He's like Dante Hightower to me, though.
Okay.
From out of Cardinals. He's a solid, he can run the ball, but he ain't going to average more than 4 yards per carry.
He runs a running back with the Lions that they have right now, where he's a very talented player, but not necessarily a star player. Yes.
J.J. Redick.
Another one of that sort. So,
yeah.
So for me in the draft, the Browns will definitely have 2 top 5 picks, which is incredible to even think of. For me, I think because of the draft that we're looking at this season, the players that I will look at are actually Lamar Jackson, I think, is a chance. They go ahead and draft him. I like Josh Rosen, but Josh Rosen came out and said he doesn't want to actually play for the Browns. I like the other quarterback option for Josh Rosen. Baker Mayfield's another good option. But I think Lamar Jackson is a super talent. He reminds me of Robert Griffin III, where his talent is immense. In the right situation, I think he can be very successful. For the Browns, having the number 1 pick, I would even assume you can trade that pick off. Trade it to a team that wants to, draft a Josh Rosen or wants a shot at Sam Darnold. And you take a step back. But another play I think they should really look at is Mika Fitzpatrick, the free safety from Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's being looked at as a top 10 pick.
Oh, yeah,
I think that kid is a scary free safety.
Yeah,
almost like the kid that the Jets just got last year.
Yeah, Jabal
Adams. Yeah. He reminds me a lot of him. Not as big, but reminds me a lot of that same caliber of play.
And then he moved Jabal Peppers, played a slot.
Yeah.
Go there, so just switch off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if they're able to get a lighter pick, still draft Lamar Jackson. And if you don't, the next player to go after would be now Shaquan Barkley. I think he has a chance to be a Fred Taylor, a legitimate Elliott, one of these prime running backs from day one.
He might be.
He can do everything very well. He reminds me of Fred Taylor, the longtime Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's ranked higher than Elliott coming out.
Yeah.
So
because he can catch better than Elliott.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's amazing.
I also like it. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver out of SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger receiver, good hands. A little bit more like Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald has a lot of ways of good hands, bigger wide receiver. That's what I would focus on. And then another quarterback, another player they should look at is wide receiver Equanimeous Brown. I might be saying his name wrong. Equanimeous Brown. It's from Notre Dame. The reason he should be an option is a very good young receiver, might be in the second or third round. But he was the former wide receiver for Deshaun Kaiser when he was in college. That was his favorite target. They made magic together. So I would look at the Browns, look at bringing him in the second or third round.
Comfortable.
For the Browns, the reason when I originally was looking at putting this together to see how it go, they didn't have Josh Gordon with them. And since Josh Gordon has came and played, he looks just as good as he did before.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like he's still very talented wide receiver. I used to think he was just as good as Julio Jones years ago when he was. And Julio Jones is the best receiver in the game to me. Even though a lot will say Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown doesn't have the physical specimen that Julio Jones is. So I look at Josh Gordon as, oh, wow, he can be a phenomenal player for them and for Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at the Browns draft, I think it's important for them to go ahead and use those 2 picks to maximize the players that you bring in. Whether it is a Fitzpatrick, who is a star safety that you know can be a starter and elite player for years, and bringing players that will fit around the talent you already have. But they're bringing in the middle linebacker, Hightower from the Patriots. They already have a young middle linebacker there. You got Garnett on the line, so they have plenty of things already in place defensively. Just a couple more pieces that you need to put in, and on the offensive side, Kaiser can develop. But now what I say, as far as next year being able to compete, in the free agency, I think they could take it to the next level, or I would take it to the next level. First player I would aim for, Le'Veon Bell. I feel like he's the best running back in the game. He's going to be a free agent. Steelers seem like they don't want to pay him a long-term deal. If I'm the Browns, I make him my main objective for the entire offseason.
Mm-hmm.
You bring him in as the star to your team to lead because he's an all-world player.
Yeah.
He's maybe a top 10 talent in the entire NFL. You bring him in. It will help Kaiser along the development level, and it'll give you a chance to draft those other pieces and build around that core. So Bell is who I really go after. Then another wide receiver that I would go after, wide receivers I would look at, are Terrell Pryor, Javaris Landry, who's with the Dolphins, Devontae Adams will be a free agent from the Packers. 3 very good wide receivers that will all be free agents that you can sign to a deal if you don't want to bring Josh Gordon back to be on the other side of Corey Coleman to build around Pfizer or whatever quarterback you might draft in the draft, whether that be LeVar Jackson or Josh Rosen or whoever. Also, I look at Kirk Cousins as a possible option. You could bring Kirk Cousins on maybe a 2-year deal to start if you put the wide receiver around him. Also, if you say sign a Terrell Pryor, you have Josh Gordon, you have Corey Coleman with Njoku, with a nice running back, and now you bring in Kirk Cousins. You could be a competitive team very, very next season.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I look at DB Kyle Fuller as being a possibility to be on the opposite side of the young corner they have there now. That's the way I would kind of approach it. So the direction I would take this team in is like, you want to build around your quarterback, whomever that's to be. If it's Pfizer or you believe Kaiser, is the guy, build around him. Don't say because he's struggling this year, he's not the guy for the future.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't given him a chance because there's nobody there. Corey Coleman's been hurt all year. Josh Gordon is playing 2 games. He's not had a legit even something to build around and know these are the players I'm going to grow with, these are the players I'm going to work with, and actually work on my craft with them. James Winston has had Mike Evans from day one. We can see how they're growing up. So for me, the draft strategy would be maximizing the talent per pick. There's quite a few holes for this Browns team. So you're not going to miss if you actually draft by who is the best player available, not by fitting a need that you think you have. So if I was to take it, I would approach it by, best talent available. And I would say that next year we can compete, and another year we'll be in the playoffs. If we knock this draft and this offseason out the park. So I think the Browns are not that far. And I think John Dorsey, the new GM, has a chance to actually make that work out. He did a great job with Kansas City. First thing might actually be firing Hugh Jackson, though. Mm-hmm. I'm not nothing against Hugh Jackson, but the fact that he's not communicated well with any of the GMs that he's had since he's been there, and he's not had a good relationship with any of the quarterbacks he had since he's been there,
It's not going to work.
It's not a good look at all. I think he might be a great quarterbacks coach or even an offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, it is not looking good. You should never lose all your games in a year. I don't care how much deprived of talent you are. To lose 16 games in the NFL does not look good for any head coach at all. And if I was a GM, I would have a significant problem with my coach somehow still seeming that he's okay with not winning a football game. I don't care if we're not doing that well. There should be some pride that we need to win a football game. At least one for the season. At least one in our home field. And the fact that it doesn't seem like Hugh Jackson seems to have that pride. I don't see him angry. I hear him saying like, well, we competed this week. We're making progress. When you get to week 10 and it's 0-10, let's get a win.
Yeah.
And that should be the thing for the next 6 weeks. Let's just get a win.
Just get a win at this point.
And that's the way I kind of approach the Browns. If I was to take over, that's how I play GM for the Browns.
That was impressive. That was very impressive. You got I looked at a few out of the Brown stuff, and you got pretty much all the points of where they need to focus and what they can develop out of. It was a really impressive job.
Yeah, that's it.
It's showing how you could do that there. Like how you were saying, I was taking a little bit of doses about it. They do give up a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Even certain players like the Colts picked Jabril Shepherd. Jabal Sheard. Yeah, Jabal Sheard.
Highly talented defensive end.
He's top 5 in QB rushes, and he was a very good talent in college.
How about T.J. Ward? Safety they drafted.
Got rid of his center.
His best days was in Denver. Even though he had such talent with the Browns, you saw he was a great young player.
The only person they really kept was Joe Hayden.
Correct, and they just got rid of him again before we still had juice left. He still is a starting player, and the Steelers, got them one. They got them one.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot.
I think the problem is the Knicks problem, where you can't keep firing leadership, because you're going to keep restarting and restarting. The one that drafted Johnny Manziel is not there now.
Exactly.
The one that drafted Brady Quinn is not there.
You can't have different quarterbacks, coaches, different head coaches, different person. It's a different playbook the person has to learn. You keep drafting new quarterback rookies.
Keep restarting, and the players that just were drafted 2 years before now are in limbo. They have never been developed. Now you have somebody coming in new and don't necessarily like these kids.
They don't want to
want somebody new to fulfill their agenda.
It's a bad slippery slope that they've been falling through, and I think with your keys, they would be really beneficial to help.
And I think it's going insane because they just fired the GM again and brought in John Dorsey. So you didn't even give Sashi Brown a chance to build with Hugh Jackson when y'all just had them together 2 seasons ago.
Even though they could easily be 32 straight losses in this season. I think if it was for a lucky win against the Chargers last year, they could have easily...
I didn't even agree with them not bringing back RG3 this year. To say, who was your starter?
The fact of Brock Osweiler had a better shot than RG3, that's already just showed that it was a lot of big mess up.
And I can't for life of me understand why in the NFL they have this thing where they say these quarterbacks like RG3 or Vince Young are going to be a distraction. Really? Jay Cutler brings a lot of kind of controversy with him, but you still give him all the opportunity in the world. Mark Sanchez had a lot of controversy circling him. He's still out of job to this day. I can't for the life of me understand where is it about talent or is it about perception? So for me as a GM, I'm out here to win games. I'm not out here
looking for the talent
to satisfy ESPN pundits. And I think that's exactly what a lot of these GMs fall into. No disrespect, but you got Louis Riddick on ESPN saying, "Oh, I would do this, I would do that," and then people start to listen to what he's saying and they continue that rhetoric. When it's you're not in the room with me,
exactly.
You don't know what me and my coaches are talking about. When Belichick says, we knew who was on our board. It doesn't matter what the mock draft said on ESPN or Todd McShay said about this or that player. We have our own idea. We knew what we was going to the draft trying to get.
We know what makes us great. So, if you knew what made us great, you would be doing this job. The fact that you're not, that's what tells us that it makes a difference.
I remember with Phil Jackson, before the draft, they asked him, do you feel like you're stealing money from the Knicks or James Dolan going into this draft process? Phil laughed and said, I think we know what we're doing. The New York media lambasted how do you know what you're doing? They haven't made the playoffs since you got there. You obviously don't. But it's this man has won 11 championships in this league. To say that and the reason that he's looking at it comically when it was do you think you're good with this draft? He's laughing because it's why wouldn't I know what a talented player looks like?
My thing is, they may look at certain stats and say, "Oh, it's because you had this player, because you had that player."
Like when people say,
"But how did
no,
I'm just saying, how did the player join the team unless I scouted him and brought him here?"
I still had to pull the plug on that. I still had to.
Shaquille O'Neal was at another team before he was brought over to this team.
Spent more years with Orlando than with the Lakers. But we don't realize that. We just see like, oh, Shaq had a great. That was with Phil. Like Phil had some of the best players we've ever seen, and that has a lot more to do, in my estimation, with Phil than it does the players. So when people say, well, he had Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had several coaches before Phil. Did not have the success with those coaches that he had with Phil.
The fact that the Chicago Bulls were in playoff and Super Bowl contention without Michael Jordan should just prove it enough.
And with Kobe and Shaq. Shaq played with Orlando. Shaq was on the Lakers for 2 years before. I mean, more than I think.
And Kobe was just a high flyer, not no real scorer.
Kobe was just a very uber athletic player coming out of high school.
He kind of remind me of what's that kid from the Suns, the one that just dunks on everybody. I'm not sure if he's still there anymore. So there's one.
Oh, Gerald Green.
Yeah, Gerald Green. Yeah, he just flies. That was it at one point.
So when I said, what I'm saying is there's certain teams that know what they're doing and they're not going to follow public rhetoric. So even with the Giants, I thought they did a horrible job this year letting the media and the fans dictate how you're going to run your organization. Mm-hmm. Now, why is Jerry Reese being fired? Nobody can explain that except, the Giants have not looked well. He's missed on drafts. Well, based on the stats, he's not missed on any of these draft picks. And based on his past, like Landon Collins, Odell Beckham, drafting is one of the best things that Jerry Reese does. Now, if you want to say he didn't select the right coach, that's because he didn't select that coach. So when people get into the whole, and that goes back to Mara, letting the media and the fans say that, Eli should never be benched. Everybody there needs to be fired because of look at what they're doing over there to Eli Manning. Let the media talk as much as they want. Eli's had a horrible season. He's had basically one good game out of 15 games. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL, and he's the starting quarterback. There's no ways around it. I don't give a shit about your resume.
The team was not so much different from last year that it got that bad this year. So
correct.
It should not have been.
If he's that good, they can't be that bad. One has to give.
They started the season with Odell Beckham and
all those
couldn't win the game.
All those pieces. And they lost by field goals where Eli would score well in the second half, but you're down by 2 touchdowns in the first half. And it comes back to, again, McAdoo I don't think was the right coach. Sure enough. But the point I'm sure we want to make here, good organizations maintain great chemistry.
Yes.
Maintain good communication.
Yeah. You got to keep that in mind when you're building your team. You got to keep the same continuity. You can't keep changing the playbook. You got to keep the same players. If you believe in what you drafted, you got to watch it develop.
Yeah.
You got to watch it develop.
That's the Browns.
You can't sign a player 4 years and don't give him the 4 years.
Yeah, correct. And if I even look at the teams that are actually excelling right now, the Eagles, the Rams, a lot of the players that are excelling for them, they drafted. Aaron Donald was drafted by the Rams. Goff was drafted by the Rams. Gurley was drafted by the Rams. The corner that's doing well over there was drafted by the Rams.
Think about it.
They're successful because of these drafts.
Fletcher Cox was drafted by the Eagles.
Carson Wentz drafted there.
These players were drafted and groomed and
developed. The biggest
so
part
now
of
you look at them and say, oh, they got a whole bunch of players. Yeah, they drafted them and they all mature together.
And then I have people say, well, because they didn't have draft busts. A draft bust means that the organization and the player didn't develop well together. That doesn't mean that player wasn't as talented as people thought they were. That doesn't mean that the team made a bad choice drafting that player. That just means 2 years later, neither one worked out on the development aspect. Brett Favre got drafted by the Falcons, which most people don't even realize. He made his best years with the Packers because the Packers were committed to him. Does that mean that the Falcons made a bad choice or reached when they actually drafted Brett Favre? No, because obviously later on we could tell he had the talent. Mm-hmm. But that situation didn't work out for him. Drew Brees started off with the Chargers.
That's a fact.
Had his best years with the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that the Chargers made a bad choice or that Drew Brees wasn't a good talent. And that's back to the Cleveland Browns. Johnny Manziel's not even in the NFL right now. So not only did you draft this man, you got nothing back for him. You didn't trade him and get some more picks or trade him and bring in another quarterback. You just never developed him. And that's an organization problem, not a bust. Johnny Manziel's not a bust. Because we can look at his college stats and say, like, no, he was a super talented player. He can play football at a high level. So don't tell me he was a bust because it didn't work out in the NFL. He's not a wide receiver or one of these position players that just never brought what he brought in college to the position that he was playing in the NFL. As a quarterback, he's based on his talent around him. As a wide receiver, he stopped running good routes or all you did was jump over people in college. You might not be able to do that in the NFL. All you did was just run down straight routes like, what's the kid name? Trayvon Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You come to the league, you're not faster than everybody no more. You can't get off that same way. You're not going to be as good. Mike Williams, I believe his name was, got drafted by Detroit. In college, he was just faster than everybody. You come to the league when people are just as fast as you, you can't just walk past me and catch the ball.
And not even only that, when you come into a league where defenses say, okay, you're going to be faster, I'm just going to keep it safely up there.
It's not college anymore. It's a different sport. Now, to say that Johnny would not be able to do what he was doing, but we saw him have sprinkles of doing that. It's different between never seeing him even come close to succeeding on the next level. Same with Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow actually was beginning to improve with Denver, so he was taking away the opportunity to ever get another chance.
Who knows if Tim Tebow would have been the best quarterback and such, but we have seen plenty of quarterbacks in this season alone.
Josh McCown! How? Drew Stanton! How? Jay Cutler!
But they got multiple years.
Tannehill is going to come back next year and get a job again.
He's super going to get a job. Starting job. Paying millions of dollars.
Correct. But, yeah, that's...